So this is a flavor, this is dried mango. This is dried mango, and so what you do is you dry it out, grind it into a powder, and what it adds is a tangy element to food. There's a flavor called chatpata. Chatpata is a very desirable flavor. It means tangy and spicy together, and it's that thing that kind of makes you want to take another bite. And so this brings that in dishes. If you had told me I'd be kicking off 2020 attempting to discuss the term chatpata to a freshman global history class in Hell's Kitchen, I would have called bullshit. As it turns out, that's exactly what happened. Earlier this year, I had the amazing opportunity to speak at the Food and Finance High School about the flavors of Pakistan. It was something I was super honored and humbled to do, and a pretty inspiring way to start off the year. The school was founded in 2004, and it's located on Manhattan's west side between 10th and 11th Avenue, and it's the city's only high school focused on the culinary arts. Apart from a typical academic curriculum, math, sciences, social studies, etc., students take a deep dive into the culinary world and food studies. They grow fruits and vegetables, they farm fish, shrimp, and lobster, all of which they actually use in cooking competitions and even for the school's catering company. Beyond that, many of the kids pursue real-world opportunities, including internships with some of the top restaurants in the city. So how'd I get here? Thank you so much to the Food and Finance High School for having me. Very honored to be here. Quick spiel is that I volunteer at Museum of Food and Drink, which is where Chef Jeff did a panel there. Got in touch with him, spoke about some things. Building social change through food and so forth, which is very near and dear to me. And that's how we got here. So what do we talk about? So we're talking about the flavors of Pakistan. You mentioned that Pakistan is in Asia. In particular, it's in the South Asian subcontinent there. My family, my parents come from Karachi, Pakistan. Karachi is the biggest city in Pakistan. By the way, Pakistan is a country of about, call it 210 million people or so. There's about 15 million people in Karachi. Karachi is the 5th largest city in the world. It's the economic hub, it's the transport hub, massive seaports that exist there. As you can see, the channels that come right out of there.
I have a quick question.
Sure. While I was discussing the city of Karachi, the teacher asked about the different cultures in Pakistan, particularly in the context of the partition of 1947. For example, my family is actually originally from what is now India. So India and Pakistan pre-1947 was one big country, and it was under British rule. And in 1947, there was a partition, it separated, right? So there's a segment, for example, of my family, which is what is called Mahajir. It kind of means migrants. We migrated. My family literally, they had to get out. Next up, I gave the kids a crack at guessing some of the common spices used in Pakistani food. What do we have here? Yes, cayenne pepper. Go ahead.
I think it comes from the bark on the tree.
You're close. Yes. Very happy that somebody got cumin seeds. Yeah, it's cardamom. In Urdu or Hindi, it's called ilaichi. I think a number of you nailed it. Props to all of you guys. Yeah, that's turmeric. What do we got here? Who said that? You guys know your spices. You know, adults don't know most of these. What we're digging into, the meat of today, is the flavors of Pakistan, the tastes of Pakistan. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to talk about the common ingredients that are used. We're going to talk about common foods and dishes that we make out of those ingredients. And we're going to talk about a little bit, we'll touch on kind of food culture, you know, how do people think about food in Pakistan, Pakistani culture, and so forth. So real quick, this is what I'm calling the aromatic veg, kind of aromatics that are used in Pakistani cooking. These are often the base of like 95% of the dishes. And what you do is when you first start cooking, you're gonna flavor the oil that you're about to cook in. And so what you do is, we call it bughar or tarka, but you put the oil in the pan and you basically infuse it with the spices that we went through, as well as some of this stuff.
The culture is what I'm curious about.
You know what it is?
I don't know.
Ghee, which is, maybe you've heard of it before, but it's sort of like clarified butter. Ghee is kind of the same thing, except you take that fat and you kind of toast it a little bit. So it's sort of like brown butter, but even further, right? Because when you're clarifying butter, you're taking out all the moisture, you're taking out all the water, then you're separating it out. This one, now you toast that fat, so there's a little nuttier kind of element to it. The common meats that are used in Pakistani cuisine are beef, goat, chicken, and fish. A typical meal or day consists of any combination of these up here. I've broken it up into breads, rice dishes, salan or dal, which is commonly known here as curry or lentils, and then barbecue and kebabs, which we talked a bit about. There's different kind of breads in Pakistani cuisine, and so one which you may have heard of is roti. And there's different kinds of it. The way that I think of it is very simple: flour, water, perhaps a little salt, maybe a little bit of oil in it, and you make these flatbreads. But they're very thin. You can put them on a skillet, and then you can finish it over fire, and it kind of balloons up a little bit, and that means you did a good job, and it's blistered. That's just a typical roti, which is day to day. There, you can enrich the flour that you make it in and make it in a bunch of ghee. And you have parathas, which is kind of a more layered. It's not a roti, it's a paratha, but it's made in a similar way. So as far as rice dishes goes, can anyone think of a very popular rice dish from Pakistan, India, from the South Asian subcontinent? I'm sure it starts with a B and ends with a biryani. So like there's biryani carts. Some of them are okay, some of them are good, but biryani is a very popular dish. There's all sorts of different versions of it throughout Pakistan. I'd like to think mine's the best, but so does everyone else. It's one of those kind of dishes. And then as far as salans and dals goes, salan, what you guys might call curry, I call salan. And that is these braised, stewed dishes where you eat them with rotis. So these were the breads I was talking about. Let's move on to the rices.
Oh, yeah.
So this is biryani, right? Matar pulao is something that we eat day to day. One of my favorite things I make all the time. And so these are the stewed, braised dishes I'm talking about. Kadai chicken, and it's more of a drier, it's less broth in it. It's made fairly quickly, fresh ingredients, lots of ginger, lots of chili, wonderful flavors. Can someone guess what we have here? A bowl of something?
Beans.
It's close, it's lentils. So this is yellow lentils, very staple dish. I make it all the time for myself. What do we have over here on the bottom right? Chickpeas, right? Garbanzo beans, chickpeas. In Hindi, Urdu, they're called chane. My favorite dish is called beef nahari. Like, my last meal is beef nahari and hot apple pie with ice cream. This is my favorite dish by far. It's just a wonderful, wonderful dish. Let's talk a little bit about kebabs. So this is called Shami Kebab. It is a minced meat, minced beef and lentils combined together, of course with a bunch of spices, corianders, chilies, onion, ginger, garlic. I just want to quickly show you what a typical barbecue scene looks like in Pakistan. Massive skewers, massive grill with a ton of hot charcoal. When you're talking about lamb chops, you're talking about like the chicken tikka that I talked about, right? You're talking about beef. Anyway, thank you guys so much.
I knew pepper.
That flew by. It was so quick. I literally was just doing the introduction. But it was great. Very fun. Obviously, I'm obsessed with food, cooking, eating, celebrating it, building connection through food, because it's a very powerful thing, in my opinion.